To increase government tax revenue, we have to reform and refocus the Ghana Revenue Authority towards broadening the tax base. Unfortunately, the pressure that is placed on GRA staff to collect revenues makes them focus on existing taxpayers. Sometimes they even have to go and sit in people's shops to monitor sales, a process known as invigilation. In fact, many businesses feel harassed by this process and the constant audits of their operations. So this has to stop. We must strike the right balance between collecting revenue and allowing businesses to thrive. Our job is to protect the productive forces. A flat tax of a percentage of income for individuals and SMEs, which constitute 98% of all businesses in Ghana, with appropriate exemption threshold to protect the poor. With a new flat tax regime, a tax return should be able to be completed in just a few minutes. We will also simplify our complicated corporate tax system and VAT regime. To start the new tax system on a clean slate, my government will provide a tax amnesty, that is a complete exemption from payment of taxes for a specified period and waiving the interest and penalties up to a certain year to individuals and businesses for failures to file taxes in previous years, so that everybody will start afresh. Tax digitalization will be implemented. A flat tax of a percentage of income for individuals and SMEs, which constitute 98% of all businesses in Ghana, with appropriate exemption threshold to protect the poor. With a new flat tax regime, a tax return should be able to be completed in just a few minutes. We will also simplify our complicated corporate tax system and VAT regime. To start the new tax system on a clean slate, my government will provide a tax amnesty, that is a complete exemption from payment of taxes for a specified period and waiving the interest and penalties up to a certain year to individuals and businesses for failures to file taxes in previous years, so that everybody will start afresh. Tax digitalization will be implemented across all aspects of tax administration. Everyone will be required to file a very simple tax return electronically through their mobile phone or computer. There will be no manual or paper filing of taxes under my administration. Assessments by GRA will also be faceless. Faceless assessments will provide transparency and accountability. There will be no need to send GRA officers to go and sit in shops. E-invoicing, as being implemented by the GRA, will be extended to all companies. Estonia, India, and Mexico provide very useful models for Ghana in the area of tax digitalization. In addition, any audits by GRA will also be done electronically and facelessly. Furthermore, no entity will be audited more than once in 5 years unless anomalies are detected which the individual or company does not correct after being given the opportunity to do so. We will amend the law such that if there is a dispute about tax assessment, a binding arbitration will take place through a body constituted by institutions such as the Ghana Arbitration Center, Institute of Taxation, AGI, Institute of Chartered Accountants, Private Enterprise Foundation, Ghana Employers Association, and so on, with a mandate to resolve any appeal in a maximum of 3 months. This will not affect companies, however, who by their agreements have such arbitrations taking place in international jurisdiction. Ladies and gentlemen, with cuts in government expenditure, the private sector undertaking expenditure that would normally be done by government, and the new tax regime, the flat tax regime, that will enhance compliance, broaden the tax base, and increase tax revenue. With these policies, the situation we are going to face in 2025 is going to be very different from the situation we faced in 2020 and 2022. With the policy measures implemented so far, we have outperformed the IMF fiscal deficit target of 5% by attaining a fiscal deficit target of 4.2% in 2023. The new policies that I am proposing to implement in 2025 will give us the fiscal space to eliminate some taxes, such as the proposed VAT on electricity, if they are still on the books, the emissions tax, and the betting tax, without compromising our fiscal deficit.
You're welcome to the bottom line. So you heard the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is also the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party towards the 2024 December 7 general elections, wanting to become the president of the nation through the New Patriotic Party if he is voted for. And he outlined his vision. So we were asking early on whether that was the manifesto of the entire political party, or that was the vision of the flag bearer, which was going to be encapsulated in the manifesto of the party. So if this was his vision, then we are expecting more in the manifesto. I don't know if you think that there is hope for Ghana based on what you've heard so far from the Vice President, or it's just rhetoric, as some people put it. And of course, for the opposition National Democratic Congress as well, they believe that there is nothing in there to believe. Others believe that there is something in there. Do you have hope or you don't have hope? Ours, it's not politics here tonight on this platform, The Bottom Line. Ours is to do a diligent assessment of the promises and how they will help the business community create employment, create a conducive environment for the private sector to thrive, and affect our macroeconomic indicators and transcend into the microeconomic indicators. So last week, we held kind of a lecture for you where we took you through the number of taxation or the kind of taxes that we've experienced as a country right from 2017. So, of course, we did a little retrospect into 2016, and then we took you down the memory lane from 2017 up until 2024 and how it looks. Generally, the percentages, if you look at it percentage-wise, it looks some kind positive. But do you feel it in your pocket? How is the business community receiving this? Will it affect vote at all? But we won't go into the vote anyway. For us, ours is to do the analysis. So tonight, we get into that discussion, and that's why we began playing for you the bite from the Vice President, His Excellency, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Remember that he will be going against former Vice President, former President John Dramani Mahama, who has also been putting some things which we are concerned about. For example, the 24-hour economic policy that he wants to introduce, and some others that he's talking about within the enclave of the business community in Ghana. This is what we analyze tonight. But remember that our focus particularly is on Dr. Bawumia's speech. We'll be right back, and when we get in here, we'll take some of the points and analyze them. And you may want to send in your message as well. What do you think? Whether there is hope for the country based on what you've heard so far, or there is none. If you're a business community, how do you expect the economy to be impacted if he gets to win power and become the president 2025? Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're welcome back from the break. This is the Bottom Line. Let me remind you that we are live from our studios here at Rage in Accra. We are live on DSTV channel 277, and we are live on our Facebook page, Chairman Kwesi Afrey, of course, on all social media pages, Chairman Kwesi Afrey, you can find us. And we'll try to put our number on the screen as well. You can send in messages. How is the economy faring for you currently? And with the promises or the vision of the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, whether you think there is hope. So you can tag us on any of the social media platforms, Bawumia Speaks, and then we'll get into the discussions with you in your house. The discussions is actually going on here in the studio anyway. So let me come to the studio, and I have Clement Boateng is the Vice President, Ghana Union of Traders Association. He's our own friend. He's been here. Clement, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Well, Kwesi, good evening, and thank you for having me. Good evening also to your cherished viewers.
I hope you're doing very well.
By His grace.
And the economy is treating you well.
As you know, our business has not been all that good for some time now.
Yeah. Let me quickly run to the online Zoom, and we have John Awuni, is the Executive Chairman, Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, joining us online. Unfortunately, he's been caught up somewhere, and so he couldn't join us in the studio. But John, if you can hear me, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Kindly unmute if you can hear me.
Sir, let me say good evening and a happy new year. It appears we haven't spoken this year, right?
Yes, exactly. We haven't spoken this year. Happy New Year to you.
Many happy returns.
And how is the economy treating you in the year so far?
Oh, so far, well, we thank God for the gift of life, but there's still more room for improvement.
Right. So I'll get back to you pretty shortly, but my very first question, and I'll begin with you, Clement, and I am sure we may be joined by Samson Asake, the Executive Secretary of Importers Exporters Association. But you watched the clip, or you've seen, or you listened to the Vice President speak, and he outlined a number of things he wants to do. Some have said it was a very bold step to announce some of the things he did. Some have said that other politicians who are also campaigning haven't been able to do that, that would straightforward depart from this policy which is affecting the business community. Do you think, generally, before we come to the specifics, there is hope as a businessman?
Well, I would say every human being, once there is life, there is hope. Yes, but as to the implementation of what the Vice President has said is another thing. So, as you have said, as we go on to deliberate on the specifics, we will come there. But what I will say is, as I've said already, once there is life, there is hope. So we live to see whether what actually the Vice President has said will come to a reality if he assumes the position.
Do you get us excited at all about it, about what he said?
Well, I wouldn't say I get excited, but well, it's I would say some of our expectations, have been met as far as his vision that he outlined are concerned. Some of our expectations have been met. So it is our prayer that in case he gets the nod, he will be able to, fulfill what he has promised.
So I'll come back to you pretty shortly on which specific expectations he met. You have played in the industry for quite a long time. I have followed you for quite a long time, and you have been giving us your positions all the time. When the finance minister comes out with programs and policies, you come out to give us your perspective, how practical it is on the ground. So I'll come back to ask you, first of all, whether it is practical, the points you think he has met, and if he met them, whether it is actually practical to be able to do, looking at the structure of the economy currently. But let me come to you, John, if you can hear me. For your industry, the beverages and the traders and everything, let me say, are you excited? Were your expectations met? Did you watch the Vice President?
Well, thank you very much, Afi. I clearly listening to the Vice President's speech. The speech in itself was quite exciting. The speech in itself inspired hope. The speech in itself showed where we wanted to go, where he wants to take Ghana to, and how he will take Ghana to where he wants to take Ghana to. So for that matter, I was quite happy and then about the speech, the content he covered, almost every area, the manufacturing sector, general, the private sector, a general economy. He looked at every area of the economy and what kind of tried to diagnose the issues and then also come out with solutions and how he will get those things done. So I was kind of inspired and then I had hope. That was on one leg. But on another leg, I thought that a lot needs to really more to be done because it's the same vice president that spoke and campaigned so vigorously in 2017 and got a lot of people to follow him, got a lot of the business community excited, and we remember the major statement that we will move this country from taxation to production, and clearly that had to do with the manufacturing sector, that had to do with the issue of making sure that the productive sectors of the economy, manufacturing and agri, they grow much more better than the service sector. But as we speak now, you will find out that the manufacturing sector in 2022 grew by -2. The economy still larger remains agrarian. We also will find out that almost about 70% of businesses still remain largely informal and fear to be formalized because of overtaxation. And then we also recognize that the business captains of industry are unanimous, and they are unanimous about the fact that businesses are overtaxed, and that has spoken quite loudly by the behavior of imports into the country at the Tema port. That has spoken so loudly by the cost of locally produced items as much as even as well as general pricing of goods and services. That has spoken so loudly in terms of the diversion of goods Ghana ports right now to Togo and to the Ivorian ports. And that has spoken loudly by the fact that GRA officers now have to sit down at the offices of businesses to kind of make sure that they pay taxes because people are now trying to find various ways of surviving. So clearly, it is the same vice president that spoke and said we will not borrow. When we get into power, we are not going to borrow. Same man spoke and clearly stated that we are going to stabilize the currency. And I am one particular person who so much followed and was excited by that statement to the extent that I converted my dollars into cedis and put them with GM Bank. And as we speak now, I have lost over 1 million cedis and I don't know when I'm going to get that money. I practicalized my support, my hope in him through the speeches that he spoke. And by that, the fact that he was going to stabilize the currency, we converted our dollars into cedis. But as we speak now, the cedi is 12.6 cedis or so to $1. Our debt situation, we've borrowed to the extent that they have now even banned us from borrowing. So there's a lot more to be done aside the very beautiful, exciting speech. And I thought that those are the very gray areas that needs to be ironed out as the vice president warms up into great campaigns. The vice president will need to really carry a lot of people along because a lot of people doubt and have said that all politicians are the same. Many do not have hope. The private sector thought that the previous NDC regime had made interest rates very high, inflation rates was high, and many other things, and businesses were almost ground to a halt. And many were hoping for a change, and really supported the song of and the song of His Excellency the Vice President. But as we see, afraid you realize that from 2017 to today, in addition to many other taxes that were introduced in the previous regime, the John Mahama's regime, you'll find out that you have excise tax has been introduced. We have COVID-19 levy introduced and still stands in our books, even though we are not in the COVID era. Electricity tariffs have increased over 100% and continue to increase every quarter, same as water. We have VAT increase from 12.5 to 15%. And the same leaders of this government in the early 90s fought against VAT. Many people lost their lives through this fight. And yet, they have come into power and have increased VAT from not only sustaining, but they have increased from 12.5 to 50%. And they have increased growth and sustainability tax. They have even come out with a law that if a business runs at a loss for 5 consecutive years, the business will still be taxed, will still be given some tax rate to pay. I can go on and on and on and on. So clearly, there's a lot that the Vice President will need to put in perspective to make
John,
the speech 100%.
John, briefly, do you? I want to ask whether you get excited. I don't know if I should use the word excited or maybe hopeful, or does it change anything for you? The sharp departure of the Vice President, maybe taxes or some policies from what is currently existing. He's the same person who spoke 2015, 2016.
It changed a lot for me, listening to him in all honesty. It changed a lot. The speech carries hope, and then the speech in itself carries hope, and it's inspiring. Before you can get to where you want to get to, you must know where you are going to. And the Vice President clearly has a vision for the country, where he wants to take the country to. But then we need to, like I said earlier, he will need to now deal with the issue of credibility. Because many of the captains of industry think that, the same person sang all these songs that are outlined earlier when he got into government, and he's still in government. Why can't he do it? He thought that the credence and then the capabilities of the economic management team, and then talked about Professor Jambafo, Bobachi, Ojako, he himself, Osakuma, and all that.
Right.
And so the same people, none of them, by the grace of God, has died. They are all alive. And we are where we are borrowed. We used to go and borrow and even over borrow and come and celebrate with cake. What shows that when he comes into power,
it will change.
We will not abandon all those lofty ideas and then continue with the same old trend.
Okay. So
That's
let me come back.
concern.
Let me come back to the studio. And Clement, you've listened to John. And first of all, the first question is, which areas for you as an industry, and that's what I put to you early on, did he meet in the speech? And then I'll come to John's point of credibility, because some of these same things, I remember in 2017, when the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, mounted the platform in Parliament, we saw people, some of your members at Daboso, jubilating on the streets. But now the story is different. And so what did he meet? And are you still hopeful, like I put the question to you earlier? And then we come to the issue of trustworthiness. But before you answer that, let me quickly announce that Samson Asaki Awingobit is in the studio. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
He's the Executive Secretary, Importers Exporters Association of Ghana. And when I come back to him, I'll ask whether he will still contest as a president for the country again before we get into the details. So, Clement, you have the platform.
Yeah, Kwasi, thank you very much once again. Yes, Kwasi, if you recall, the business community have been complaining for some time now about the high cost of doing business, which had to do with the number of levies and taxes that we are paying at the port. We also raised an issue of the VAT system, which is being currently operating here, whereby we have some people in the standard rate, and we have those also in the flat rate, and we have those also not charging at all by way of GRA saying they don't meet the threshold. And all this category of people are operating in the same market. And the customer who is coming to buy is not under compulsion, to buy from a VAT registered person. So it puts those that have registered at a very disadvantageous position. You can also recall that in the media budget review, there were an additional, 3 taxes: the growth and sustainability, the income tax amendment bill, and then taxes on the fruit juices and the mineral water, which went on to compound the already existing, taxes and levies that businesses have been paying. So we have been complaining about all these, issues for quite some time now. And even prior to the 2024 budget, we were called to the Ministry of Finance to present our proposals, which we think government must, consider as far as the 2024 budget is concerned. But lo and behold, when the budget was read, nothing was even mentioned. So the business community, have been saddled with a lot of levies and taxes, and it makes doing business in Ghana here really high. So if you listen to the vision, outlined by the Vice President, he touched on these issues. When we come to the issue of VAT, he made it clear that he was going to restructure, GRA itself, and then let them have a new focus and a new, dimension, because we can't continue with the system whereby
people come into your shops and come into your shop, attack you and all of that.
Yes,
you have complained about all of this for a very long time.
Yes, sit at your shop and say they are doing invigilation, and then they made you charge, VAT under duress. So the Vice President spoke on that. He also spoke about giving us a flat rate, specifically with the people of Abaso Okai, and then when they start and it goes on very well, it will be replicated to the other commodity lines. He also talked about aligning duties and taxes at Tema and Takoradi to that of Lome, because oftentimes you hear people saying that Lome is a free port. Free port doesn't mean when your container comes, you go and lift your container without paying anything. But they have restructured the duties in such a way that it is affordable for you, and it is not like here whereby you are saddled with about 22
too many taxes, yes.
22 levies and taxes that you are supposed to pay before your goods get out. And even after your goods has come out and you are on your way going to deliver the goods to your shop, you are even confronted with a tax force for your goods to be impounded and then go back for revaluation. This, it doesn't, augur well for the business community. He talks also about automating, Tema Port to be likened to that of Dubai, Singapore, and then Hong Kong. So these are, issues that are good for the business community, and we think if he gets into office and he's able, to implement all that he have said, it will go, a long way. Because talking about this flat rate, you are aware that exchange rate is changed at every Tuesday at Tema Port. Even though we paid duties in cedis, it is being calculated in dollars and converted into cedis, for us to pay. And there has never been an occasion that the exchange rate has been reviewed and it has gone down. Either they will use the previous rate or there will be an additional, increment. So then if you cleared a container, say last week, and maybe you paid 1,000 cedis, you should know that if you are going to clear the same container this week, you wouldn't pay the same 1,000 cedis because the exchange rate, is going up. You see, so these are issues which he touched on, and then has come out with this flat rate scheme, so that if you pay and your goods get out, and even the tax force meets you. Once it is a flat rate, and if it is 20,000, you have paid the 20,000.
That is all. You are good enough to go with your business.
You are good enough, to go. Because some of these things that these tax forces have been doing, or GRA or the customers have been doing, it's an indictment on themselves, because it is their own people that gives the valuation and classification. Mm-hmm. So why is it that you have given me the duties to pay, I have paid, and then I've been cleared to go, and on my way you come and impound the goods and then send for revaluation. So these are issues that the vice president touched, and we think it is good for the business community. And when he comes and he implements all those things, I think it will augur well for the business community.
Thank you very much, Clement. So let me see. I just had. Let me just take this one. The economy is not good enough now, but there is hope in what Dr. Bawumia put out than what Mr. Mahama has been putting out since they started. Frank in Tema sent in that one. I'm just picking two messages for now, but later on we'll read more. How? Kwesi, how can someone who says that he was only a driver mate as a vice president and the chairman of the economic management team be busy touting his personal achievements under the same regime? I'd like to suggest to Dr. Bawumia to find something else to do instead of thinking and hoping that Ghanaians would be gullible enough to vote for people who don't want to take responsibility for their actions and inactions again. He can't simply be trusted by Ghanaians. Sam, East Legon Hills, sent in that one. I'll come to, do I call you His Excellency? Samson Asaki Wingobet. And you are welcome to the studio. The first question I posed was whether there is any hope for you as the business setup of the country, the economy of the country. Listening to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, of course, there are other candidates as well, but we are analyzing his speech economically. And then, which area specific are you interested in that should be maintained, whether it is Dr. Bawumia or not?
Thank you very much, Abri. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And my senior comrade, Mr. Clement. Of course, maybe doctor is in the pipeline, right? Amen. So, and my mate at the Methodist University, Ghana, Hilda Atiku, he said he would add from you.
Wow.
You know Hilda, right?
Yes. Yes.
She said I should pass a message to you.
Yes. Yes. Hilda will get to you when I close session.
Good evening to your viewers all over the country. Of course, certainly, I'm sitting on the hot seat of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. So definitely my interest would be on the port. And of course, you asked the direct question, am I contesting the PNC flag bearership? Yes, I'm contesting. If they should open the nomination today, I will pick a form to contest. Of course, in 2020, I didn't perform bad. I think we were 3 candidates. I became the number 2. So it's likely, if God being so good, maybe
this time you get it.
And the business community, for once, they will have a presidential candidate or a president who will be coming from the business committee and who understand. Not people who go and sit somewhere, write something, and come and read to us. No, the practicality is what we are talking about. But let's put that aside. I listened to the vice president. I was there. Unfortunately, I didn't meet my senior, but I was there with Dr.
I didn't come.
And at the end of the day, the assessment that I've made was that, have we heard this statement from the vice president before? Yes. Lofty idea like this, yes. In 2016, he said we were taking this from taxation to production. And I can tell you the countless taxes that came from 2017 to 2020 and from 2021 to date as we speak. I can tell the countless taxes that came through. And of course, Mr. Clement was right to have said that, Reverend John Awone was right to have said that we need credibility, because on the day they were presenting the economic management team and mentioning it, you were there at the College of Surgeons when there was a day that they gave us the
Benchmark,
tax waiver or whatever we call it. But it wasn't a tax waiver. Let me put it in this perspective. The ideas that the vice president put was lofty, but I want a social contract with him. Why I sit as the executive secretary? Because you and I are very much aware that if he's assuming without admitting he's elected as president and he's sworn in, the constitution gives the president so much power said that you and I cannot even question him. Okay? But if you have a social contract with him, and tomorrow he become president, and he's not doing what he said he will do for business committee, we can take the government to court through the attorney general. Is that not it? Because you have something on that thing. We'll go to court, that is social. But what the vice president spoke on that day, it was an open-ended statement he made. He made an open-ended statement simply because there was not any timelines in the bold statement that he made mention. Because he tried to sway with the business community. If you're a business person and somebody say, if I become the next president, I will give you tax amnesty. The auditing of by GRA to companies or to organizations will be done once every 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
It looks very bold. I will make the spare parts flat rate. Then we ask ourselves, was there a statement that was made before? We have abolished the Abusukai. So even Abusukai don't even pay tax, and you are saying they will pay tax for you to give them tax rate, flat rate. But in any case, they are paying tax at the port. That statement that was made never yield anything. So, to reduce the tax or to give a tax rate, flat rate to the people at the Abusukai, the government should know, or the vice president office should know that you have no right legally to just give a tax flat rate at the port, even if you become the president today. Because we implemented what we call ECOWAS Common External Tariff, 2015, remember? The ECOWAS Common External Tariff gives countries to implement 0%, 5%, 10% rise to. But in Ghana at the time, we were doing 20% rise, so they maintained the 20%. Then commodity like cooking oil, tomatoes, and what have you, frozen chicken, 35% if your country can produce more. Ghana implemented the latter. So anybody who wants to say that I want to give a different rate to my people in my country for political gain, you have to go through a process, a procedure. One, you have to write to commission of ECOWAS Commission. Then when ECOWAS Commission gives you that clearance, you come back and go to Parliament because, mind you, it's a tax. And any tax that will be paid, you must have Parliament blessings. So that is, if you remember, that was the benchmark value. We couldn't reduce any single tax. At the time, we were saying benchmark values. But we are accepting now transactional values. Today, they are no more accepting transactional values. That is why my people are crying. Quite apart from that, apart from the tax rate that we are paying at the port, we also have levies. So are you saying if Clement tomorrow bring 20-footer container of spare parts and his invoice value is $100,000, you are saying that with what Vice President said, he will say go and pay $20,000 and go your way without the other institutional fees and charges. Is that what he's saying? So I am looking for proper interpretation. We want to see the timelines into what the Vice President said. Is he saying that if if God bless him and become president, in his first, mind you, by November, they have to present a budget for the first 3 months. Depending who will win power and take over. So that person also come and prepare his own budget. Is he saying his first 2025 budget? Is he saying his mid-year 2025 budget? Is he saying his second year budget? We need timelines and social contract with his campaign team. The other aspect is talking about giving us, synchronizing the tax rate between Lomé. Ask what is happening in Lomé. What is happening in Lomé cannot happen here in Ghana. As Clement said, we are using the cedi in calculating the duty. In Lomé, the CFA has never fluctuated since I became advocate in 2010 till date, and 2014 till date. So, and in Lomé port, they have shed. Those days we used to go to port, we used to have shed. If you remember the time Burkina Faso and Mali and others came here, they were allocated with shed. When the port was now congested, we were expanding. We break down all the shed. So now that is why if you go to the port, they build that transit terminal yard to hold on their cargo. So in Lomé, if you import your goods and come, it will be there's a holding area. So that if Clement client is Asake. Clement comes to sell, they say, I brought spare parts. It's sitting in the shed, the pot shed. Asake is buying maybe 100 pieces. He take his money and give me a kit. I go to the custom authorities. They will assess me based on the quantities I'm buying. I will pay. I, the buyer, will pay the duty and then take the commodity to the economic center, like also trying to go and sell. Is that what he's going to do? And where are the areas that we are going to hold those cargoes? Again, we also have what we call demurrage and rent. When he was presenting it, has he also considered the demurrage and rent, whether it's his government or his team trying to waive certain demurrage and rent for us? So you can't compare protests into the same basket with Togo and other things. It won't work.
Are you saying the ideas put forward by him are vague?
Are very big, ambitious.
I mean, vague.
Yes,
Not
very ambitious and vague. Very, very ambitious and vague. Because I've given you the challenge that he's going to confront. If he hasn't thought of it, I'm reminding him that he cannot guess unilaterally. He will not have executive power to say, I'm giving flat rate to spare parts importers. Because he has to go through a cost commission. That is banded.
That's a practice.
So it's going to be a process.
That's when, that's a process.
So it's going to be,
this is the vision. The vision is that I want to give you flat rate if you have a 20 or 40-footer container.
So it depends when the government will communicate with ECOWAS. It depends when ECOWAS will then respond back to government. It depends when government will then go back to our parliament to admit before. So that cannot even be within 1 year, 2 years. I'm telling you, we know what is happening.
But do you think the ideas are novel? Is that the case?
The ideas are lofty. One of the policies that I said, even not only he's president, if tomorrow, because I remember Dr. Eden Mahama say if he become president, he will introduce national health insurance. He will introduce school feeding. President Kufuor came and brought into the idea and implement today is helping Ghana, is that not it? So policy like, if Asake want passport, my biometric details is with national health, what? Identification card authority.
Yes.
National identification authority.
National
identification authority.
Yeah.
My biometrics are there. I pay the fee. I guess upload my ID card number. Then the passport office hit the software of NIA. Then they be able to print my passport for me. Lofty idea. The auditing business community. Within 1 year, we've seen 5, 3, 4 different people coming from GRA. It's a headache. So that's another lofty good idea. So there are certain things within executive he can do. There are certain things, even domestically, you have to go to our parliament and get things approved.
Right. So let me go to John and come to you, Clement. And briefly, John, if you can hear me, Samson says that the ideas are lofty. However, the practicality of it is a bit challenging for him. So he would require a social contract. Will you require same?
Yeah, very so much true. Today, the Food and Beverage Association of Ghana, we sent out a press release today explaining the issues currently confronting the private sector, particularly the business community, the manufacturing sector, the imports sector, and the general business community. And then we align all the taxes that have been introduced since 2017, introduction of benchmark values, benchmark discount values, reversal of the benchmark discount value, increase of VAT from 12.5 to 15%, increase in
Can you hear me, John? Right. Let me come back to Clement, and I'll ask you the same question. I think we have a bit of a difficulty with John's network, but again, the same question to you. Samson says he needs a social contract. The ideas are lofty, like you said. They are lofty. I mean, if it's just about the talk, if it's just about the promises, then you would give it to him. But the implementation of it, we have talked about the trustworthiness, whether we can be able to trust him because he had said some of these things before. But he said that he wasn't in charge as the ultimate person. Now he's going to be the ultimate person. And so the implementation of it now lies on his shoulders. Will you require a social contract too?
Yes, Akwasi, because of credibility issues, Guta is considering that very seriously. You see, what we have seen for time past is that these politicians, will wait. And then when it is maybe about a month or two to the elections, then they will come to you and then present their manifesto, to you. This time, we are not going to do that. As I'm talking to you now, GOTA is making a document. We are compiling a document which is also our sort of manifesto. Yes. And then we will present it to the various, political parties or whoever wants to, stand as a flag bearer, being an independent presidential candidate or a flag bearer to any party. And then we make sure that the document that we are presenting to you, you infuse it
In your manifesto.
in your manifesto. And then we will sign
Super.
a performance contract. And then we make sure that whoever comes to power, when you come, you have to implement what.
But why haven't you been doing this all this while? I mean, this would have put.
They have opened our eyes. They have opened
This would
our.
have put them on their feet.
They have opened our
And
eyes.
all of us
this
would
time.
have been relieved.
Yes, they
Because
have
we
opened
are all
our,
suffering.
they have opened our eyes this time. So this is what we are going to do. And so when we present it to you, and then by God's grace, you come to power, and then you don't, implement it or go by what we have, given to you, then we have every right
To go to court.
To go to court. So this is what we are also, doing.
To add to
Peter, just 1 minute. Peter from Hatchway says, Baumia had little power to kill us. Now he wants more power to finish us. Ghana, be careful. Good evening to you. Please, how can our own vice president reduce his office to driver's mate? I think that was a scenario he was given. Dennis from Kumasi says so. So anytime the president travels and he's in the country, is he still a mate or acting as a driver? He's a field economist because he only knows theory, economy and lectures. Dennis from Kumasi. Kojo from Newtown says, good evening. Thanks for the good work. I think the current vice president and vice president agreed for the VP to appear as a man with his own ideas. Please, I want to ask why these new ideas cannot be implemented now. Is it that the current president does not want these brilliant ideas to be implemented? Source, credibility is key. Kojo from Newtown says that one. Please, the vice president is only okay, this has been read, Kwabena. East Legon Hill, some I have read yours already. Let me come back to you. We don't have a lot of time, so let me leave you to talk.
Yes, so the vice president also stated that he will make Temaport fully automated. As we speak, the Temaport is fully automated. What is lacking is that a political will. I remember vividly when ICOMS came, his office instructed that they should, many of the state institutions operating in the port there, who had nothing to do with fiscal examination of the cargo, should go back to their offices and use the system to do approve and whatever, and permit, issuing permit, approval, and that. You don't need to be at the port fiscally. So all those institutions, and then there were only 3 mandatory institutions that were asked to stay at the port. All these institute people have come back to the port, and that is what we want him to do. Again,
why have they come back?
So you have to ask the office of the vice president.
And how are they able to operate? I mean, they are
operating. They are there.
If I have to play the quote or unquote, devil's advocate,
yes,
he has said that he's not directly in charge of things. He's putting up as the vice president innovative ideas for the implementers.
But digitalization is
we have had
digitalization is for the vice president. He started that this is for him.
But we've had trade ministers, we've had finance minister who are supposed to make sure that these people coming back to the port to do the charges don't come to the port.
It was the vice president of it that issued a statement that these people should go. He directed that they should go back to their various office because he's in charge. He was in charge.
And so they came back because it wasn't the Ministry of Finance or it wasn't the Ministry of Trade that gave the directive.
I have no letter to that effect. And the other aspect is any import box that passes through MPS is being scanned. So we know what is already going
in the container.
So it is totally automated. All what we need is political will. The other aspect is that the vice president, if you wanted business community to believe in you, the time they were increasing the VAT to 15%, you should have said no. The time we were calling that the COVID-19 levy should go off, you should have said yes, COVID is over, so it should go off the books.
But if he disagrees, he may not be able to come out to say it.
So he could have
I
resigned.
mean, in an organization.
He
If
could have,
there is a.
yes, to peg himself and to redeem his image, he could have resigned. I think you now read somewhere that a president of one of the countries,
Yes.
female president, because she gave pardon to people, and the country rise, she resigned. I think recently the UK, the woman who was the prime minister, she set certain target that she was supposed to meet. She couldn't meet it. She resigned. But when I was training in UK, right? Or is it the US? Harvard. She went to one of the best economic Canada. People are resigning there day in, day out, because if you think that in principle, against my principle, you resign. But when it's a fine gentleman, if you resign, you get a job to do. You get a job, one of the bigger universities will pick him to go and lecture. So I can tell you, his statement was very, very robust, but he said we should forget the past and look into the future. We too cannot look into the future. We are looking at what has been our experience. In the past, what he told us, sweet. He is good communicator. He was able to put his message across safely. But I strongly believe that if he wants the business community to accept him, we need to do social contract with him.
I'll come back to you for your final comments. And let me come to you, Clement, before I go and round up with John. Political will. Do you think that's what we need currently?
Yes, I think so. You see, most of the policies that will go a long way to help the business community, our politicians, have not had the political will to implement, those things. And that is the reason why this time around, we are going to sign a contract with them. So that if you come and you don't live, by your word, then we can take action against you. Political will has been the bane of this country. Lofty ideas, lofty suggestions.
Yes, Muhammad talks about the 24-hour economy anyway.
Yes. The 24-hour economy, I would say, is already, being practiced. Yes, in certain areas, but maybe it's going to,
be improved.
Yes, improve upon it, which is not a bad idea. Because if you go to Osu currently, if you go to Dansumai currently, if you go to La Paz currently, people are doing brisk business right now. It's about 24 hours. Yes. So he's going to maybe put in much effort. So the political will is what our politicians need, to enforce some of these policies that they come out with.
So the way to go for us as a country is that, yes, the ideas are lofty, the ideas are innovative and so on and so forth, but the will to implement them. John, if you can hear me, do you agree with the two of my guests here in the studio? Kindly unmute. We are not able to hear you. If you can hear me, please unmute and let's hear you briefly on the political will. And then I'll come and round up with something.
Clearly, we need not only political will, but we need a passion for development of this country. You see, what happened in most developing countries is that we believe in developing individual economies. Like, let me develop my family, myself, and all that. We don't believe in developing the entire community. And that's how come sometimes when they appoint a minister of state and he's going to parliament for vetting, his tribes people go and join him and sit down there, and they kind of own him that this is our tribes people. So what is happening is that we need a renationalization of this country, clearly, because we don't have something called Ghana. We have tribes. And then everybody's looking at how he can make his tribe rich, how he can make his family rich. And that's our problem. Not necessarily political will, because people see themselves, this is the Frafra man. So when you go get in there, make sure that you get a lot of Frafras employed. It's not that get a lot of Ghanaians employed, but get a lot of Frafras employed, get a lot of Kusasis employed, get a lot of Mampurusis employed, not a lot of Ghanaians. And what is destroying this country is the issue that there's no state. We have tribes people. We are all broken down into tribes. We're not properly united at independence, and we have not been properly put together. So we are all looking at that. There's nothing called Ghana, but we have what we call tribes. And that's why we are not developing well.
Right. Thank you very much, John. Let me come to you now. And I'll pick from what do you think is the way forward. And that will be your final comment. Then
the Vice President made a very robust promise that he will make a port like the Hong Kong, Dubai, the Singapore. Those places, they don't do intrusive examination. They don't bring your containers and open and bring all the goods out. I'm hoping to see that implement in our port. That Clement container will get to MPS, to Golden Jubilee. He go there, pick his container, he goes his way. Nobody open it, nobody do anything. Because we have sophisticated scanners to detect if there's a car in the container, it will tell you there's a car in the container. In other jurisdictions, it is 20-footer, whether you have brought a car, whether you brought a caterpillar, whatever. Why it is a 40-footer or 20-footer, this is the charge. You pay, you go your way. That is what we are looking to see. And that is why we are asking for social contract. Because we know very well that if you become president, my brother, these things that he spoke there, 70-something pages, you think 4 years, within 4 years he can do that? He's asking for 8 years. Do you think that within 1 year, 2 years he will be able to do that? He will tell us, let me settle. I have not settled. We have no time to listen to those things. What we are asking is, we from the business community should be very united ourselves, should be like the organized labor and hold politicians accountable. And because we cannot start business with politics. If you go to market and see how our market women are suffering, my brother, it is not an easy thing. And so anybody who will come and give us, I will do this, I will do this. You have said before, and you came for good 7 years, business community are sophisticating to the extent that you've even introduced what we call upfront VAT 2.5 at the port.
All right.
So once buy twice to do what? Shy. And that is why we are raising the issues here. We are not saying that what is the statement that is said is not flamboyant, it's not robust, it is, but because he has said more robust programs before, and we could not see it. And now you are saying you were the mate, and now you want to become the driver. We wish him all the best. But before we wish him, we want to sign that social contract with him.
Because you say there is no time, the business community doesn't have time. Let me round up with this. Nana Okiamo Watson in Ablikuma Central says, after listening to Dr. Bawumia, I got inspired that all hopes is not lost yet. We are going to break the 8, and Ghana is going to rise again. No time for honeymoon. DMB means business. So, my guests tonight have been on the line from Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, the executive chairman, John Awuni. Clement Boateng is the vice president, Ghana Union of Traders Association, and Samson Asaki Wingobert, His Excellency, is the executive secretary, Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. My name is Kwesi Efrie, your host for The Bottom Line. We do business here on this platform. Upcoming is my colleague. She's going to do a very interesting one in the sports area. You want to stay back on Metro TV and watch Metro. Stay with us.